Welcome to the intersection of technology, cybersecurity, and society. Welcome to ITSP Magazine. You're listening to a new The Hacker Factory podcast with hacker maker Phillip Wylie. You're about to discover what the role of a professional hacker entails, the different specializations it holds, and what it takes to learn and become one. Enjoy the conversation as Phillip and guests unveil the secrets of professional hacking, a mysterious, intriguing, and often misunderstood occupation. Knowledge is power, now more than ever.
BugCrowd's award-winning platform combines actionable contextual intelligence with the skill and experience of the world's most elite hackers to help leading organizations identify and fix vulnerabilities, protect customers, and make the digitally connected world a safer place. Learn more at bugcrowd.com.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Hacker Factory podcast. I'm your host, the hacker maker, Phillip Wylie. In each episode, I have a guest with a unique story on how they got started in offensive cybersecurity. And this episode, I'm very happy to introduce my friend, Hudney Piquant. And we've known each other from the local community, attended a lot of the same meetups and stuff, and known each other over the years. And it's really been cool to watch him progress in his journey in offensive cybersecurity, and he's done an awesome job, and I think you can learn some really great lessons from him. Welcome to the show.
Hey Phillip, how you doing? It's been a long time, and thank you for having me on your show.
Thanks for taking your time out of your busy schedule to be on the show.
Yeah, for sure. And like you said, we've been going to other local events for a long time now, and like, same thing. Like, it's just been awesome to see you continue to grow in the community, help so many people. You've just been all over. So I just love to see that. So I'm just glad to be a part of this platform.
Oh, thanks. It's good to have you. It's with the need for cybersecurity professionals, we need folks that are willing to help, and, the stories that the guests share are very helpful. And the stories resonate different with different people because, this last guest I had, he was a pool cleaner. And so some people doing jobs along that lines or some other physical labor may not have any kind of clue that they could get into, something in offensive cybersecurity and make 6+ figures, and so a lot of people don't realize that. And these stories just kind of hit people differently. I had a lady on here that was an esthetician. She spent like 20 years in the beauty industry and went back to school and got like an associate's degree in IT and then an associate's degree in cybersecurity. And her first job was pen testing. And then, it's just based on some stories just in general, people always ask, I'm 30, I'm 40, I'm 50 years old. Is it too late to get in? And it's not. And so these stories, hopefully encourage folks. And hopefully I'm sure what you have to share today is going to be helpful to someone. So for those people that don't know you, why don't you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about you?
Yeah, my name is Hudney Piquant, and I'm here locally here in the Dallas area, and I've been here for a few years now, but I'm originally from Stamford, Connecticut, East Coast, New York City area, but I'm actually Haitian, but born in the States, so when people see my name, they get really confused, but yeah, Hudney doesn't mean anything special, really, just a combination of two relatives. And my last name, Piquant, that does mean spicy in French, though. So that's a fun one. Yeah. I've, started cybersecurity before it was hot. Like, I literally started in a garage. First, of course, I did the student worker position in Michigan. I went there to school. I really enjoyed what I was doing because originally I want to go for philosophy. Like I just enjoy philosophy, and I never forget going into my advisor, and he was telling me that you're not going to make any money. I'm like, but I enjoy it. He's like, well, do you want to have a family? I'm like, yeah. He's like, okay, don't do it. I'm like, okay. So I just ended up choosing, IT because I already liked it naturally at home. Just working with computers and stuff, breaking things and all that. So you just naturally enjoy it. Working in working in the help desk was a great experience. You just learn a lot from the bottom and work your way up. You learn how to deal with people because sometimes when you have a request that comes in, I mean, depending on how upset the customer is, you need to know how to help them emotionally, then the technical aspect, So that was a good skill set to learn early. Then, of course, went to doing some networking, wired buildings, learned a lot from that, making Cat5 cables, good time there. And I came across this opportunity in Michigan to work for a startup, but we had a big contract with, doing work for Chrysler. But it was a cyber role, but cyber just wasn't a big thing. And it was in the garage, and you're not sure exactly like where this is going, but it was the best thing. It was literally the best thing. I'm so glad I did it. I did end up at the time going to another role in the healthcare, which was Cerner, but I realized that I missed working in the cybersecurity space. And what's crazy is by the time I got back to go into cybersecurity, I'm thinking like, well, I did this before, I'm good. I can just go on interviews and just, kill the interview. And everything changed over 4 years, everything changed. Like there's terminology now called like SIM, and it's like, what's a SIM? Like, what is this? Just a whole bunch of different things changed, and I had to catch up on it all. But I was glad to get back into the cyberspace. I just love it. And one of the things that also kind of realized that this could be a career was when I got into a TV show called 24, Jack Bauer's best TV series of all time. If you haven't seen it, please watch it. Of course, it's TV, but there was a lot of things that were very cybersecurity related that made me realize that, wow, this could be a career. So that was a big impact as well.
Very cool. So what made you to decide to get over into the more of the offensive side?
Yeah, with cyber, I did start on the blue team side, and it's great to have that experience as well, because you want to know for sure, like as you're defending, what do you need to defend against the adversary, and vice versa with the red team. Like you need to understand the blue team and their methodology and techniques. But one of the things, for me that I wanted to get into is just I like playing offensive, even when it comes to sports. I love the adrenaline rush. I just love that, So for me, it's kind of like an adrenaline rush. It's just fun. It's always something new. You're looking at a new infrastructure. You got new attack surface. Everything's just new. So just that alone, it kept me going. It's always fun to just touch something new. So that's one of the biggest things that I loved about it, and especially the beginning stage, which we like to call the recon process, reconnaissance, or if you want to say enumeration, like that phase, I would say is my favorite one. Because even before you start doing all the attacks and everything, like you want to for sure know, okay, what can I get into? Let me see what I can find, and having that intuition to know, okay, of all the stuff that I found, this is my mark right here. This is my mark. This is where I'm going to go with. And that part is just so fun to me. Like it's always something different.
So you've worked in pen testing and red teaming. So which do you kind of prefer over the two?
Oh, most definitely red teaming. Red teaming, you get to get involved in, a little bit more, things that are not as methodology based. With pen testing, you still got to follow a particular methodology. You can't veer off too much. But with the red team, it's all open game. It's all open game. I mean, just things that you don't really think of until you see the environment, whether you're going through max spoofing. I mean, it's just, there's so many things that you can do in red teaming. And I think right now in our industry, of course, pen testing is still needed, but I think people are wanting to get a little bit more granular and a little bit more freestyle, which is great, and that's where the red team comes along. Yeah.
Yeah, it seems like the compliance pen testing is really what kind of messed that area up because, from what I understand, I mean, I got in pen testing back in 2012, but some people I talked to have been in the industry longer. You used to have some of your full scope pen tests, and social engineering was involved, physical pen testing was involved. There was more involved, but it seemed like once people's budgets was getting made up for, or these budgets were justified for compliance, then all of a sudden you're just focusing on stuff for PCI. You're not worried about social engineering anymore, physical. You're not doing some of the red team type stuff. It's all just narrow scope. And I think a lot of that people kind of neglected. And it seems like, people realize we need to do this. These are areas that are weak, and the red teaming started to catch on.
Exactly. Like, I have this line that I always use when dealing with, like, whether it's customers or whatever. I would say, like, we have to stop being afraid of. We have to start getting more afraid of the adversaries than the auditors. We're so like, oh, auditors. It's like we need to have that same focus when it comes to adversary. Like a lot of things that we do in the enterprise is really to please the auditors, and we're not considering the actual adversary.
Yeah, the adversary don't care if you're PCI compliant.
Yeah, it's like, okay, that's nice. Good for you.
So yeah, it's definitely interesting to see how things have evolved, because you also look at, you're talking about how you were out of cybersecurity for 4 years, you came back and there's all this stuff that wasn't there when you left. And, it's really kind of gotten that way on the offensive side too. One time you had pen testers and you did some web, you did some network, but it's pretty interesting how that's evolved, all the technologies.
It's true. That is so true. You got APIs, you got mobile, IoTs, and that's really becoming a big thing, And IoTs is interesting because there's all these wearables. You're a walking Internet of Thing,
Yeah.
So and then you got the autonomous vehicles, and then in order to have the autonomous vehicles and the metaverse and all that, you need 5G, because you need to be able to transit all those different data points very quickly. So now you have 5G in the mix. Like, it's just, oh my goodness. The attack surface is just going to get bigger. You got the cloud, and it's not like we're going to go back to paper. Like no one's going to do that. It's just,
yeah, we're too far gone now.
Yeah,
I remember I worked at a mortgage company for like 14 years, and I remember like when we were worried about Y2K, if something broke there, that wouldn't have been nearly as bad back then it is now. We're too far gone to try to go back to pencil and paper, and I don't think anyone's prepared to do that if they have to.
It's going to be tough. You're not going to be able to scale anymore. You're going to miss the convenience of being able to just connect with everything from, whether it's a Dropbox or whatever tool app that you're using. Even with cloud, like the business continuity aspect, especially we see with, the pandemic, like, with people working remotely, you can still continue on with business if you were in the cloud, pretty easily. Even when you're looking at the OSI model, you most definitely see this shift. Like a lot of work back in the day was done layer 3 and 4 of the tools and protection, and now it's all about layer 7. That's where a lot of the activity is happening, and we're still fumbling with it.
Yeah, it's kind of like what they said, that one meme a while back, or one of the ongoing jokes was, what helped your company through the digital transformation and the pandemic, because it kind of forced people to go to the cloud. People had plans to go to the cloud, but they had to go there quicker. And, a lot of people weren't set up to work remotely, but then they had to force it and
accelerate it.
Yeah.
I think it's, it is good at the end of the day, this just makes things so much easier. Like, even if you were to try to, you want to do some testing and, you don't want to touch prod necessarily, but you can clone that so much easier, Now, it is true because it is easy, one of the biggest issues is people standing up, web applications, because it's like click next, and it's like, all right, cool, yeah. Like, they're not going through the SDLC process. People are just standing up things all over the place. And it's like, oh, I didn't realize that's actually externally facing. Yeah, that's external facing.
Yep. Or I guess there's probably chances of someone's cloning something else accidentally if it's going to be like a dev environment or UAT environment and actually accidentally cloning something with customer data or employee data.
Oh yeah, and the thing is, it's not like they got an alert to say, "Oh, this is what you did." By the way, it's like you just don't know until an adversary brings it to your attention when you get briefed. It's not like the adversary is gonna be like, "Hey, this thing is over here."
Yeah, they're just gonna pwn it.
Yeah, they're just gonna pwn it.
Yeah.
It's tough because the attack surface is most definitely getting bigger, and which is why now there's a marketplace for ASM.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So as far as during before the pandemic and now, have you seen things really change for what type of stuff that you're getting requests to test?
Yeah, I mean, I would say, the changes. It almost seems like it's not as much, different. I think more so things kind of accelerated for people. So now, it's more of the testing of like, let's say, for example, now that things are so remote, even with the app on the mobile, I mean, APIs are just becoming a really big thing right now, because less and less people are doing things on their laptop and doing it more on their phone. And I think because of the remote aspect, it causes people to actually, get into their phone more because they're more like around moving, maybe running errands, but still can work from their phone. You don't have to like walk with their laptop. That's just kind of odd. So now you're kind of concerned about, well, if you're working from your phone, you got to really make sure that there's some security measures in place, what you're connecting to. But I think it's just really accelerated, like we talked about before, the cloud. Really getting a lot of testing done in that space because now a lot of people have been moving to it so quickly. Like they're lifting up, they're doing heavy lift from the application where it was before locally, and now they're putting it into the cloud. So pandemic really pushed, most definitely accelerated that. And some people have fumbled. Some had a playbook that they were able to follow. So yeah, I think it most definitely varies. It most definitely varies, though. Yeah.
So what are some of the skills you think for someone that's getting started out that you'd recommend? Because with all these new technologies, there's so many people with network pen testing experience and some with web. What would be a good area to focus on if someone's wanting to get into the industry?
Yeah, like usually when I talk to folks, and I usually ask them a few questions in a sense of, because I like to keep it very realistic with people so they know what they're getting themselves into. Because naturally, cybersecurity is a hot topic. Oh, if I get this job, I'm going to making six figures and all that. Okay, that is true, but now let's think about like what's involved under the hood. One of the biggest things is things are changing very quickly. So you have to have the ability to always learn and learn how to learn. And then also be able to research. Now, because of that, sometimes school is just not the best option. It can't scale for the way things change in cybersecurity. So you want to be able to have the ability to research, to learn how to learn things on the fly, and be comfortable with that, or sometimes be uncomfortable doing things just because it's so new. Like even if you were to like say, sometimes when you look at the job description, they'll say like 5 years and all these, like that could be intimidating. And the truth is they need to change that language, because to say 5 years of something doesn't mean that you're an expert. It might even mean that I'm actually concerned that you have 5 years, because do you have relative experience is what I'm more curious about, because the 5 years that you have may not be relevant. So, one of the big things I would say is, I like SANS as one of the really good cybersecurity training. And what I like to do is I tell people to look at their syllabus section, and you can look at all the different cyber jobs, from forensics, red teaming, blue teaming, purple teaming, OSINT. And you can read and look at the expectations, what's needed, what's kind of done, and you get a good picture of when you're reading that, is that something that I would really enjoy? Because one of the things I'm finding is because cybersecurity is just moving so quickly, there's a lot of areas you can get into, people don't know where to start. Even when they're actually in cybersecurity, sometimes they still don't know what they want to do. And I think that's really the big key too, is first finding out what is it that you actually enjoy doing naturally. What are you wired for? Because when you get into the workplace, the idea is you want to bring things to your management. You want to be proactive. You don't want to just do what's on the job description, because that's really your reasonable service. You want to kind of do more than that. Because things are changing so quickly, the expectation is that because you're enjoying this, you're wired for this, you're going to be able to find different things that can help the organization, just by you being proactive, researching, because you can't necessarily just say, oh, I'm going to go to school to learn this thing. By the time you learn it, you come out, there's already something new. So SANS is great to start to look at all the different cyber roles. What is that you like? Okay, let me try this out. And I would say another huge thing is really taking advantage of LinkedIn. I mean, my goodness, like you most definitely have to brain yourself. That's even a whole nother topic on its own, but you most definitely want to brain yourself on LinkedIn. I'm talking about from the top of the photo, your wallpaper, to the bottom, having the right background, the right profile pic, the right title, the right, about you, really, because even the thing is, one of the biggest things is, well, I've never had a cyber job. It's irrelevant. The thing is, you try to piggyback off of what you've already done, and if you show the progress that what you're doing has that trajectory of, this person looks like they're on the right track with cybersecurity, even though I know they haven't had a role, but I see that they're doing Hack the Box. I see that they're doing Over the Wire. I see that they're doing all these different things that show that this person is on the right track. That comes a long way, because honestly, everybody in cybersecurity is always kind of be learning. So you're really going to be at the same position with everybody else, always learning something new. So it's going to be important to really leverage LinkedIn, the networking, take advantage of the data of the algorithm that LinkedIn uses, find out what you want to do in cyber, like what you have a passion for, what you're wired for. And that's going to be a really good start, because then when you do that, then you're going to be able to now move with your career a little bit easier, because you're not going to be all over the place. The certifications that you're going to do are going to be based on the career path that you want. The conferences that you go to, the people that you connect with, that's all going to be geared. The people that you follow on Twitter, because that's another thing, you want to follow people on Twitter as well. It's going to be now narrowed exactly to that path, because you don't want to be getting certifications from all these different things in cyber. If you want to focus on this area that you're going to be really drilling your career at, so that you don't lose focus.
That's a good point. So what would you recommend for someone to try to discover what they want to do in cyber?
Yeah, one of the things that, because it's going to be different for different people, but the first step is, you're still going to have to do the fundamentals. Like I like to use CompTIA, just for the fundamentals, in a sense of, you got your A+, just to kind of understand software and hardware, but then you got Network Plus and then Security Plus. And then that's a good foundation. And then from there, you kind of move forward. So certifications, I don't think they're bad. I think they're great. You just got to know how to leverage it. And then depending on your style, like I particularly am someone that I would have rather put more effort into studying the interview, put more time doing my recon on the organization, their mission, the people that work there, so I can really prepare properly. Because you can still get the cert, but you still got to get the job. And there's a lot of people that are going to be having certs like yourself, so something has to differentiate you. And a lot of times, I think sometimes we miss the interview because we're just assuming that because I got the certification, I'm good. And it's like there's a lot of people that got a certification too, so you still have to set yourself apart somehow to be remembered. Because there's a lot of people going for the job, so you got to be doing something different. So doing CompTIA is going to kind of help get an understanding of, okay, let me get the fundamentals. Got that? All right. Now I really want to know, like, where in cyber do I want to go? That's the big question. Where do I want to go? And what's going to help is to look at some type of big picture. And, because you don't have the luxury of trying all these different jobs, you almost want to try it out in a sense of looking at the syllabus, reading it, maybe connecting with somebody on LinkedIn that actually is in the role, or maybe someone you might know. Go out to, coffee with them, obviously pay for it and just pick their brain and ask them the role. How is it like working in this role? Do you think, knowing me, do you think I would like it? What are some things, having those conversations, like, you want to get as real as possible. And I think one of the best things is talking to people that are actually in the actual role. Of course you can read blogs as well. You can read, what different things are, but you really want to be able to talk to some human, on how is this role like, if they know you, they can even help you out even better. So that would be a good way to start, is to figure out what you want to do first. Because now when you figure that out, you'll then be able to focus better on your next path, like, which is going to be creating a home lab, for example. Because the one thing about cybersecurity is, and I think it's going to be, this is big really across multiple careers in our world today, is going to be skill set. Skill set is really crucial. I like MIT's slogan, like mind in hand. We really need to have that, like, the hands-on experience. And sometimes, even if you can't get the experience working in a corporate job at the time, because you're just getting into cyber, the home lab, those count. If you can explain to someone in an interview what is it that you about the question they asked in a sense of application, because you've done it in your lab, that also works because they see your potential. So your home lab would be really nice to have. And, doing the different things to practice your different skill sets, like Hack the Box. That's a really good one. Over the Wire is oldie but goodie. I love it. I love Over the Wire. But of course, there's a lot of these that come up a lot. One of the biggest that I actually think is a big help too is you to surround yourself by people that are in cyber. And sometimes if you can't do that because you don't know anybody right away, one of the ways is to, get the Meetup app. And, of course, now with the pandemic, it's kind of hard, but I think, hopefully this year we'll be moving along, going to events physically, is to join cybersecurity Meetup, chapter Meetup, groups, in your local area. That's going to be really huge. Because what's going to happen is you're going to start seeing that there's people like you as well at the same stage, so you're not alone. And that's another thing that's hard too, to think that you're alone in this, and you're not. Like, there's a lot of other people that are out there in the same stage with you, and there's people there that want to actually help you. Like, people at the chapter meetup, they love helping people that's just getting started. They love it. They have a passion for it, especially like Phillip himself. I mean, he's great at it. Sometimes I see you on LinkedIn. Hey, someone's trying to get into cyber, you promote them on LinkedIn. I mean, that kind of stuff is hard to get if you're not connecting with people at these local events. Podcasts are really good because as you're listening to them, you're hearing what they're talking about, you're hearing the conversation, and it's giving you more of a concept, an idea of what cybersecurity is like. It almost puts you in that environment, even though you're not necessarily in it at the time yet, but it almost puts you in that environment. Like listening to things like Darknet Diaries, my goodness. I mean, I always say, like, if you were an Uber driver and you played that person would not want to get out the car until that episode is over. It is that interesting. And they talk about red team, blue team. They give like real life situational things that happen. And you have the advantage of hearing what they did. How did they remediate it? How did this even happen? I mean, that's amazing, and there's a lot too. And again, see, that's another thing too. Like, your podcast will also depend on what you're interested in cyber. So for me particularly, I love OSINT. A lot of my podcasts are going to be related to more OSINT related things. Another big one I would say is to get an app called Fusion. You can get it on the Android or Apple store. And what I like about Fusion is it's called a news fusion. It basically aggregates all the different cyber, articles and stuff that you would naturally read, and it just puts it into one spot. And what's good is, you look at all the different breaches that are happening, and you can see what's happening in the real world. It gives a really good idea, or as we call in the wild, giving you a good idea of what's happening, what are the tools, how many times is this happening? Okay, must be a concern. I should bring this up to my organization. Like, I'm noticing that F5, continues to get, breaches. You can add these kind of things basically, to your arsenal, and then bring it to the workplace and be, ahead of the game, and bring an added value. And then also kind of seeing that if these are the top things that I keep seeing getting breached. Let me kind of practice that in my lab and see how they did it, and try to do it in my lab. So before I do it in a prod environment, in the workplace, or I can do it in my own test environment. So I have more of that confidence. But of course, there's many podcasts out there. But again, knowing what you want to do in cyber first is going to help you know what type of things that you want to actually obtain and put in your arsenal.
That's some great advice. Yeah. So we're getting down towards the end of the show. You have anything you'd like to share that maybe we didn't discuss?
Yeah. And, actually, even things like Discord, this is a great tool to use. You can talk to, many different people on there, even some of the people that's created the tools. Like, my goodness, like the other day, I talked with Jeff Foley. He's the creator of the AMAS tool, which is a very popular tool that you will be using on the red team side. And we just had a conversation. I mean, just a great conversation about how to use the tool better. He had questions about, things that would make the tool better, things that you've noticed. I mean, and this is the creator of the tool. These people are very well respected. They're just very professional. They always want to be able to help you out. So, most definitely be involved in the community. You have Slack as well, Mattermost. These are great apps that you can use, Telegram. But I would, really in totality say that the cybersecurity space is a big space, but it becomes smaller when you, start to get yourself familiar with everyone. But it is moving fast. So it's going to be important to have an aptitude to want to research and learn how to learn.
Yeah, that's some good points, especially learning how to learn. I had someone on a podcast a while back that, said once they learned how to learn things, it just kind of accelerated, their learning process. So that's some great advice. Exactly.
Yeah, you won't feel uncomfortable because it's coming where you're gonna have to learn something that you don't know. You just know it's coming, so you might as well just embrace it.
Yeah, and as you mentioned earlier, the way things change so much in this industry, you've got to be, learning, especially when you start out. You're kind of focusing not in so narrow. You're focusing on a lot of different things, trying to learn it. Maybe you specialize down the road, but yeah, there's just so much new technology.
And I would say this would be for really everyone. Like even in the auto space, like if you are a mechanic, you're gonna at some point you're gonna have to get familiar with autonomous vehicles because you open up a hood of a Tesla. I mean, there's no engine in there. Working in the hospital industry, there's no more paper. I mean, you're putting things in EMR. You got to be comfortable working on an iPad, on a tablet. These are big changes for people. So I would say because information technology, like everything is becoming information based. It's everything's about data. Cybersecurity is a great space to be in because you will always need security. Back in the day it was just, oh, my network is up, I don't need security because security doesn't make me money. But because of these breaches and the attack surface that is growing and everything is now, on the cloud, for example, everything is externally facing a lot of things. You just have to get security, or once you get breached, there's no more company.
Yeah. Yeah, that is true.
Yeah, so, but it's a fun industry. Honestly, it's fun. Everybody is great. Sometimes it can seem intimidating, but Honestly, like the idea is to have that aspect of learning how to learn and learning from other people, and and being okay with that. Yeah.
Well, thanks for joining me, and thanks for sharing your story and knowledge. I think it's going to be very helpful to folks. So I appreciate you joining.
Oh yeah, for sure. Thanks for having me on the show, Phillip.
It's a pleasure and an honor.
All right.
Thanks everyone for joining, and we'll see you on the next episode.
BugCrowd's award-winning platform combines actionable contextual intelligence with the skill and experience of the world's most elite hackers to help leading organizations identify and fix vulnerabilities, protect customers, and make the digitally connected world a safer place. Learn more at bugcrowd.com.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of the Hacker Factory podcast with Phillip Wylie. If you learned something new and this podcast made you think, then share itspmagazine.com with your friends, family, and colleagues. If you represent a company and wish to associate your brand with our conversations, sponsor one or more of our podcast channels. We hope you will come back for more stories and follow us on our journey. You can always find us at the intersection of technology, cybersecurity, and society.